o'clock, yep. Please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Let's make sure we turn, because I know I'm guilty, turning my cell phones off and all that stuff. I think we can do that.
We don't get the motorcycle
Yeah,
revving
I
up
need
this
the
morning?
motorcycle rev. Okay. All right, I need approval of county board minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Is there any additions or deletions?
There is. We have added Little Falls Airport to the
All right,
agenda.
we'll add that.
I would so move on it then.
All right, I
I
got a
would
motion
second
for
that.
the addition. I have a second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Sheriff's report. Oh, excuse me. Oh, Little Falls Airport, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
You just told me that. See, there we go.
You know, I don't understand this, Greg. You don't come here that often in your first one. You gotta love it.
I gotta love it.
What do you have for us, Greg?
Well, I just wanted to bring the board up to speed on what we're doing out at the airport. On October 7th, we received proposals for airport engineering out there. The FAA requires us every 5 years to go out for proposals for our airport engineer. We received 6 proposals for that. 3 of them we interviewed. We interviewed Mead and Hunt, TKDA, and Cattermissly and Jackson. After the interviews were completed, the Airport Commission is recommending approving the contract with Cattermissly and Jackson beginning January 1 of 2017. The City of Little Falls approved that on their meeting on Monday night, and so this morning we are also asking the Commission here to approve that selection as well.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Jelinski.
Greg, can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? Is this something that the county and the city are jointly involved in? Can you kind of explain
Yep.
a little bit of that, please?
Out at the airport, the city and the county jointly own the airport, and so all the contributions that the city puts in, the county also puts in and matches that, and so it's a joint effort between the city and the county for the airport out there.
Do you know this is under Joint Powers Board?
It is.
Kind of like thing. Do you know how long this has been in place?
The airport was first started in I think it was
I'm not
64.
trying to play stump the band. I'm just wondering, how, has this always been?
It's been 50+ years.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
We're-
We've
with the
been
county
joint-
and the
then
city,
We've been
that's-
joint powers.
That's what
That's
I'm
correct.
asking, the county and the city
Yep.
jointly.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
All right, I would need a motion, a second for
So
more
moved.
discussion. I got a motion
Second.
from Commissioner Mauer, second from Commissioner Johnson. Any more discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair, and we are actually switching. We were with the company for 10 years. This new company that came in, there were 2 different ones that came in other than the initial one we had the contract with for 10 years. And they're providing some services and really presented very well. It was very close, but ultimately we're looking at a different provider. So because of the services that they can provide. So-
Correct.
All right, any more discussion, gentlemen? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Greg, thank you
Thank
very
you.
kindly.
Greg,
Yep.
have a
Merry
good day.
Christmas.
Stop by anytime.
Have a good Christmas. Oh, we have an airport next week, don't we?
Public health. Oh, I'm sorry.
If looks could kill there.
Good morning, Sheriff.
Sheriff has
morning.
gave you this
Morning, John.
Make him sit down.
Thanks, Greg.
I'm so
So,
very
let's see here, I think I have some paperwork to distribute, it's regarding a renewal contract.
This was an additional one, so we have one RBA in, and then this is an
This is
additional
an
one.
additional one that we
Should we do this one first?
Sure.
All right.
I'll just wait till everybody has their paperwork and.
Thank you.
So what I have is there's 2 property owners that basically store VHF equipment in Morrison County. And there's 2 base stations, and those base stations include all the components for the VHF paging system. And I remember it might have been a month or 2 back where I came and kind of explained what that system actually, what's actually held there and where those locations were. And we need some board action on that. I do have the contracts here. And what we did was the last contract expired, so we actually had to come up with a new contract. The contract is set out for 15 years for both parties. I'll just read number 4 out of the renewal before I pass it on for signature. Morrison County shall pay the property owner $500 annually for the first 5 years $550 annually for the next 5 years, $600 annually for the final 5 years. Said payment shall be made on or before the first day of August each calendar year. So we're a little bit behind just because we're waiting on signatures, so that payment should have been made August 1st. So once we get signature, we'll disperse that. So here's one for one of the property owners.
Mr. Chair, just a question. And Sean, that money is paid on an annual basis, or is it paid 5 years at the going rate?
It is an annual basis,
Okay,
correct?
just curious, in
Yeah.
case something would've happened, okay, thank you.
And before I ask to make a motion a second, do we do both of these at the same
You
time?
can,
Or
yes.
we? Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair, I've got a question. You want a motion
Yeah,
first or do you want
I'd
a
like a
question?
motion to renew the contracts for James.
I'll move on it.
I have a motion for more discussion, and I got a second from Commissioner Wilson. Any more discussion, gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, Sheriff, I'm wondering if you can kind of explain a little bit. You said VHF equipment. I guess, to be quite honest with you, I'm aware of what this all is,
Yeah.
but if you could explain what that VHF equipment actually does, and as I know it does a lot.
Correct. Yep, so the VHF equipment that's stored, basically, our fire departments, our first responders, they carry pagers. So, in the event there is a medical and/or a fire, our sheriff's office would be sending out a page to those people on those individual apartments. And their pager would go off indicating the location and what type of medical and/or where the fire's at. These property owners house that equipment for us, and basically, they're just agreeing to the easement that we can come there at any time to work on the equipment and/or to update whatever's needed.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? Again, I have a motion, a second, to renew the contract between Morrison County Sheriff's Office, James Wyatt, and Paul Cheetah. If I have no more discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries for both.
I do have a second agenda item. And we were here last week, we talked about authorizing the Stanley security upgrade. And, let's see what I get my notes here. So with that upgrade, we talked about what was going on. The security, the Stanley security upgrade basically controls all the locks and the intercoms, as well as the elevator at the sheriff's office and the jail. We talked about that this needs to be replaced. We talked about how the UPS, the battery backup system, has failed, that needs to be replaced. We also talked about the 4 different workstations that need to be replaced because of that. I mentioned that this wasn't budgeted for, that we're gonna have to use a reserve, and that's gonna be from our assigned jail programs reserve to pay for this. We talked at the planning meeting, I'd have to come forward to get a vote in order to move forward.
Gentlemen, for more discussion, I need a
So
motion.
moved.
I have a motion and I need a second.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Mauer, second, and Commissioner Jelinski for more discussion. Any discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair, very clearly, we need these electronics to be able to do business at the jail. And I want to make a compliment to Sean that we have this money in the budget. That's a good thing. We don't have to take it out of reserve. I mean, we take it
In
out
the
of
reserve,
reserve, but
yes.
we don't have to budget for that out of the general fund, so that's very positive.
Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, I just want to say before we vote on this, that I did go through IT. We did show them our budget just to see if there was any money that we could save. They said follow the estimate that we got, so.
Appreciate it.
Wonderful, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right, I have a motion and a second to authorize and approve up to 41,848 to be taken from the reserve fund assigned by jail programs regarding Stanley security upgrade. If not, any more discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Sheriff, thank you very kindly.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I know Sean's had a very busy month or so
Okay.
lately, and he's done an excellent job. He often gives
thanks.
credit to his staff that are working very hard and the partners that we work with, but it's not easy doing what he does, and he's done it very, very well from the perspective that I've seen. So even yesterday, when you hold yourself out there and you have to really be, with it and delivering and without a hitch, he did an excellent job, so I just wanted to recognize him for
Appreciate
that.
that.
And he did.
Thanks, Sean.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
Have a good day.
Yeah,
Yep.
you
See ya.
too, Sean.
Public health.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning.
morning. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. Wonderful. Thank you.
So, I'd actually first like to present Commissioner Kevin Maurer with an award of recognition for the Morrison County Public Health Advisory Committee. Commissioner has been on it for 4 years. He has been very diligent when any members have had any questions to follow up and to bring that information forth to the committee. He's been very supportive of prevention efforts for our statewide health improvement grant and our alcohol, tobacco, and other drug grants, participating in our coalitions and other events in the community. And with his background, we really appreciate what he brought to the table. So this is for you, Commissioner Maurer, and thank you so much. Okay. So, I'm Katie Christian, the Public Health Director.
Deb Lau, County Auditor Treasurer, sorry.
So we had a discussion about alcohol licensing within the county. Currently, alcohol licensing resides underneath Deb Lau in the auditor's office. Deb and I started discussions a couple months ago about public health had not received any of our alcohol, tobacco, and other drug grants that we had applied for in the upcoming years, and which was sustaining our responsible beverage server training course, which is for establishments in the community to attend for free to learn about responsible beverage server training. And because of that, we didn't have a revenue to sustain that program. It has been a priority to have that program for establishments. There's been a lot of positive feedback about the program, and so Deb and I brainstormed a little bit on how we can continue to fund responsible beverage server training. One of the options that we had talked about was to bring alcohol licensing underneath public health and to use that revenue from alcohol licensing to pay for our staff to do the licensing to fund our responsible beverage server training, and also to train our sanitarians in the food, beverage, and lodging environmental health area who currently go into establishments for those purposes, to train them more on the alcohol licensing, so when they're out in the field, they can answer questions for establishments and really bring a level of customer support out in the community to our establishments. A couple things, I did talk to NJPA, the National Joint Powers Alliance, to talk about partnering for the responsible beverage server training. They were interested, or to see if that was an avenue we could go through. How they feel that they can play a part in this is to partner with us to train our staff to do the training. They can't directly do the training for establishments because of the city-county relationship. So that's a positive thing. We're going to be working with NJPA on that in the future if we are able to sustain our responsible beverage server training. I also did make a few phone calls out into the community to some establishment owners to talk to them about their experiences with responsible beverage server training and how we can work together as a county to support them better. And they're very interested in coming together and kind of having an ad hoc committee to talk about responsible beverage server training, and they had said some stuff about beefing it up a little bit and talking more about liabilities and being more comprehensive in our responsible beverage server training, which is an option that we have. We just weren't able to fund in the past. So a lot of opportunity with this change. So that's one option. Another option is to discontinue with responsible beverage server training, keep alcohol licensing under the auditor, and discontinue because we don't have any revenue stream for that. So I don't know, Deb, if you have anything to offer or to...
No, I think you've covered it pretty
Okay.
well.
All right, gentlemen, I would need a motion, a second for more
So moved.
discussion. I have a
I'll second
motion
it.
and I have a second. Any more discussion? Commissioner Johnson?
Yes, so alls we're doing, the sheriff and everybody and the county attorney go through it. It's gonna be just moved from the auditor to public health, being you do a lot of the things anyway there.
Right, the sheriff would still have to do background
Right.
checks
It-
and
in
the
the
attorney.
Yeah.
But the
It would still go through
licensing
the same
piece-
channels.
Yeah, the licensing piece would move from my office to the
Okay,
public health office.
The statute
Yeah.
doesn't change, and what we have to do
Right.
doesn't change.
Yeah, and I think it's good to keep the beverage training, you know.
Mr. Chair, and whenever we can, this is a revenue that's coming generally into the county now, so it's not adding a new source or anything like that, but when we can tie revenue directly to expenses that are related to each other and then provide, and tie directly to the service that's provided, it's probably appropriate to do that if we can. This is a nice opportunity to be able to align that a little bit better, even though, it's not a new source of revenue, it's not different than
Right.
what it is, but it's certainly tying directly to a level of service that I think you as a board determined is what we want to provide and continue to provide, and the revenue then can go with it. And like Katie said, she did a good job of explaining the fact that we really want to be a resource as much as possible and to add value with what it is we're doing. And so I think this is a good example of really stepping up that service and stepping up that value.
And Mr. Chair, I believe that we should. We're charging someone X amount of dollars, don't ask me what it is, doesn't matter, to have a liquor license. It seems kind of funny in one sense of the word to take in money, and what do you do with it? Well, it just kind of goes into a fund and nobody knows about it. Responsible beverage server training, to me, has been nothing but a win-win-win for absolutely everyone within the county, from a establishment owner, to their employees, to the person that's coming in to do business within that facility. I truly do believe that responsible beverage server training by itself is a win-win for Morrison County. Absolutely believe that.
Any more discussion?
Mr.
Commissioner
Chair,
Mauer?
And I just received this recognition for being a part of the Public Health Advisory Team, and Katie mentioned a little bit of my background. As a nurse and a licensed alcohol and drug counselor, I think it'd be very irresponsible for us to give people licenses to do something without educating the people who serve the beverage that's out there. Different businesses employ new people on a rotating basis. We have a lot of younger people that come up and then become bartenders. And, I mean, without providing education on an ongoing basis, I think we're dropping the ball. So, no, I'm very much in support of this. I believe this needs to happen. So what better way than to take the money that's being provided by the licensings to address the issues that those licensings create? So, thank
Any
you.
more discussion, gentlemen?
Through Chair, I'd just like to add one more thing. Actually, interesting conversation I had with one of the establishment owners was, they had been through responsible beverage server training, and they said they actually brought up a specific night, the night before Thanksgiving, the biggest bar night of the year, and they said, we're wall to wall in here. And we have so many servers, many who are new, and he said, this is my livelihood, and I don't want to get in trouble. This is my business, and I want to stay here in the community, and to be able to have that support from the county, they were very interested and very excited for that.
Good.
Commissioner Johnson?
One other question, Katie. Do many of the people, they go through the county to do it? Are some of the, that we give license to, does like their insurance do it? It's probably done two different ways, am I right?
Well, it's an option. That's another option, again, to not provide the responsible beverage server training, and they
No.
can seek it out on their own.
Okay.
It's a very expensive option.
Right, no, I'm not saying that.
It
I
is
think
an
it's
option,
just-
correct.
I
You
understand
know,
what you're saying.
do quite a few of them, do it through their insurance company? They don't?
I don't believe so.
Okay,
And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner Johnson, because if some insurance companies may say, hey, we don't approve of the counties, but if you do our beverage, we'll give you a break on the insurance. I don't know, so.
I don't
Yeah,
believe,
so.
I don't believe that's the practice.
Okay.
And what I heard when I called the establishment owners was, we're already struggling to make it. And so this option of having the county support us with dollars that we're already putting in was very appealing, and they were thrilled that it was being considered.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if they take the beverage server, the establishment does, we give them a break on the license, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, but, because this is not a requirement, but we highly recommend it.
Right.
So,
You know, as soon as you start doing things as requirements, it really gets to a different level. And so we've had a lot of participation without that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, there are one or two licenses in the statute that do require liquor license training for their license. We went above and beyond and required it for all of them if they want to break.
Yep.
So we're a
Yep.
little bit more strict
Yeah,
if they want to break in their license fees. So there are some that do require the training.
so it's a win-win for both, you know, both for the establishment and they get a break on their license, so you
Yeah.
can't go wrong there. Any more discussion?
No, I just think it's very important also, and I like the fact that they get a break on it. That kind of encourages them to go and do it. So,
All right, any more discussion, gentlemen? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
I have
Anything?
anything, thanks, Deb.
Yep.
You got something else for us?
I
don't
do.
you?
I have actually two more things. So this next one is to approve a new owner establishment license. One of our establishments in Randall changed owners. I think it used to be Kim's,
Kim's, yeah.
and it's now Chelsea's Roadhouse Grill.
I need a motion
So
to approve
moved.
the
Second.
2000 establishment for Chelsea's Roadhouse Grill. I got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Not those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And the last thing I have for you is, so we have been talking for a long time about the difficulties of hiring nurses. And we do have that open position, we do have an open position, a vacancy for a nurse. And put it out there, and I did not get a single applicant. So I'm gonna put it out there again, but I'm requesting to have some flexibility depending on what applicants I get, to put the starting range out there a little broader than what's in the compensation plan.
Gentlemen, for more discussion, I need a motion and a second to request the starting salary.
So moved.
I got a motion, I need a second,
second.
please. Discussion, gentlemen. I have a discussion. At the AMC, Associated Minnesota Counties this weekend, that was one of my biggest things, talking to other county commissioners. Throughout the whole county, they're having difficult with nurses.
The state.
The state is, excuse me, the state is, and I also brought up the point is that, well, would they require a county endorsement or something like that, or they have to be a Morrison, or not a Morrison County? The nurses have to have a
Public health
public health
certification.
certification or something like that. And also, there's also private organizations, hospitals, they're offering like $20,000 signing bonuses. I know the one up in Fargo is doing that currently. There's Rochester, I talked to one of the county commissioners down there. It's a shortage of licensed, so hopefully, and again, this is what and it's a requirement. It's not something that, otherwise we lose services for the county, correct?
Mr. Chair, we've done a few different things to try to help with this issue. We have, in the positions that don't require that actual nursing license, we've tried to expand that, so social workers are doing some case management, because we've had more luck with that at this point in time, or recently, I guess, to do that work. There are certain positions and certain components, though, as an organization, as a county government, that needs that actual nursing license. So, you know, and there's also the ability to try to have some flexibility to respond, and there's also the reality that we aren't a hospital. We're not going to be able to compete directly with that, because there are some advantages of an 8 to 4:30 schedule for the most part, of no night shifts, no weekend shifts, all of that kind of thing. But we need to try to find that happy middle ground to be able to recruit somebody and to be able to keep them here. So what Katie's asking for, we talked a little bit about that we're not going to, our normal structure of compensation in public employment is to have a defined range, and you work as you gain experience through that range of pay. Well, we like to start people, of course we do, because we're stewards of tax dollars, as inexpensively or as low compensation as possible, and they work through that system. When a market doesn't allow for applicants to be interested in your job because the salary is way too low. We need to try to respond to that. And so what we're asking for is to be able to open that up for that whole pay scale in it. And it may take top pay for somebody we in history were able to have after they've had a number of years of experience here to even get them in the door.
Any more discussion, gentlemen?
I don't think we have much choice.
And
We need somebody.
yeah, and Mr.
We need
Chair,
somebody.
we're gonna try this and hope that works.
Yeah.
But there may be more
If
discussion
you
moving
need
forward.
two, what happens if we can't find one?
You know, we talked a little bit about this before, and we start losing services.
That's exactly.
So the waiting list gets
What type
longer.
of services would we lose?
You know, maternal child health. We work a lot with the senior population above 65 doing case management, care coordination. You know, caseloads get bigger, waiting times get longer, customer service goes down, and ultimately it's just a lose-lose for everyone.
Yeah.
You know,
Commissioner Wilson.
The question I have is, if you're not getting any applicants, is it really have to do with pay, or does it have to do with the job itself? You know, I'm thinking of nurses in hospitals, maybe a little more, I don't wanna say exciting, but things going on differently than what you deal with in social service, or in public health possibly. I don't know the answer to that, that's.
I can't completely answer that question, but what I can say is that we've had staff come here, nurses,
Yeah.
leave and go to the clinic or hospital and come back. That's happened multiple times. So I have a hard time believing it's just the job because they come back and they want to come back and they like it here.
And
Yep.
it's not just the pay either, you know,
No,
it's a
it's-
lot
it's
of, a lot of
everything.
different things with people, I mean, you know, all of us in personal experiences, you have
Timing.
jobs that fit, and you have jobs that, you know, type of skills and different duties that you do in the culture of the workplace, and all of that stuff matters. It takes a part to play in what we as people do for work, you know, but, this is one that, you know, when the black and white discrepancy is pretty glaring in terms of what you can get paid, we would like to try this and really advertise it at the top end of the scale and see what we can get to try to get.
Commissioner Mauer.
Well, Mr. Chairman, that's what I was just gonna ask. As far as the step and grade system, what are we approving now? Is that to be able to hire at the top of the grading scale?
Yes.
Good
We've had
question.
0 applicants.
Well, Mr. Chair, I don't think that we have a whole lot of choice here. The fact of life is that the world has changed. This is not the 1960s any longer. Sorry, things have changed. And if we're not willing to be stewards of forward thinking, quite honestly, folks, there's nobody that wants to raise taxes. No one. But if this is something that we need to stay on top of, is there really a choice, is my question. And quite honestly, I see, in my opinion, I don't see a choice here. We have to, in order to bring people in, you need to pay those people. It's just what it is.
My point would be, is, you know what, yeah, we don't need this, but here's the thing is, you don't need it until you're out there the one that actually needs the program. You know? See, so,
Absolutely right.
You know, if you have somebody tell you, well, what do you need that for? Again, it's no different than having deputy sheriffs out there. Well, why do we need deputy sheriffs? You don't hear when somebody gets called that, hey, we need public health service, oh, I can't get you in and all that. That's when you need the.
Absolutely.
And I'm all for this here, and hopefully we can get somebody in there. So
Absolutely.
that's, any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you,
See what we
Commissioner.
can
Thank
do.
you, yeah,
See you.
good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I see someone from Veterans just came in. Come on up, Kathy.
Morning.
You, Kathy?
Right
morning,
on
Kathy.
schedule. What do you have for us this
All
morning?
kinds of stuff.
All
Do you
right.
guys have copies of all
Haven't
the?
seen you for a while.
Do you guys
Do
do
you want a
that
paper
already?
copy too, or?
We've got a list right here on our.
Sure.
on our-
I wasn't sure, so I made them just in case, because I know how that works. Sometimes I don't do them, and then I'm like, ugh. So anyway, oh, I should keep one for myself. So I can.
Oh, here.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'll give you one.
Here, give me one.
Thank you. It's been a busy last few months, so I haven't seen you guys much, but been doing lots of things, and now over the holidays it's even crazier, but so rewarding. I've had a lot of exciting things happen, so actually in the last 24 hours I've really felt like Santa Claus. But But one of the things that we've been doing so that I can better show you guys statistical data on what we're actually doing is just developing, it's always a improvement if you can improve how you're tracking, who you see, what you're seeing them for, and it's nice for us to be able to see those things. So we've got a better developed Excel spreadsheet basically that really is detailed and shows who we're seeing, why we're seeing them, and it's kind of that extra step when you see people that you've got to fill this thing out, but I really like it because then I can pull a lot of data from it. And even for the grant purposes that we get and things like that, it's just nice to be able to have that kind of tracking system. Been doing lots of different meetings and training and stuff, but that just helps us do our jobs better and be able to offer people a little bit more. And been getting Luann involved with a few more things as well, so it gets her out of the office and also keeps her up to date on things that are happening in our community and with training. So Social Security and Medicare are always kind of a confusing thing, so it was a nice way to figure out how do veterans benefits work with those types of things. So that was a great class that we went to a few months ago in St. Cloud. And mental health, we always deal with that. We have a lot of people who come in depressed, have anxiety, that kind of thing. So anytime that we can attend more training and be able to help people is beneficial. And so that's kind of a near and dear thing to my heart if I can get, a lot of times, I don't know why, I just am one of those people, I always have been, where people like to come and talk to me when they're not having a good day. So I want to be able to help them as best I can. Done a lot of speaking at different things, and that's always fun. And apparently, peer school, they really liked me. I don't know why, they just thought I was very motivational and that kind of thing. I'm like, well, and I even talked
I
about.
was there and you did a good job.
Yeah, and I even had a picture of your house on my slideshow, so that was pretty ironic, actually. And the visits that I do out at Camp Ripley, I'm going to go out there, because I go out there the second Thursday of the month, and I haven't been going every month because it wasn't very busy. But then in October, it was nonstop people, so it's just hard to know with anything you do. So I'm going back out there today, and I'll do 3 hours out there and help people, because I guess there is more of a need than I don't know why. In the summer, I'd sat out there and I'm like, okay, this is really dumb. Why am I out here? And then all of a sudden it's like, wow, okay, I guess.
Kathy, I'll be, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Kathy, I'll be very bold. What do you do when you're out there?
So,
At Camp Ripley, in
so basically
particular.
the same thing that I do when I'm in my office. So I have a mobile unit that I take with me, my computer, all the same programs, and I can do claims right from the office there. Or sometimes I'll just give people advice, like if they're from another county and they've got another veteran service officer, here's what you need to do a claim in their office. So getting them prepared.
Excellent, thank you.
Yep. And then what else was I going to talk about here? We did a couple community resource fairs. There was one out in Randall. A lot of our veterans organizations are trying to provide information as well, and so they asked if we would be part of that in their community in Randall and just be able to give veterans information on benefits and things. And they didn't have a huge turnout, but they gave it a shot, and sometimes your first time you do something, it's but with the NJPA thing, I think we talked about that last time, so you guys are familiar. We're going to be rebuilding a monument in Randall, or actually moving it, and so that was our little piece of that puzzle. The Vietnam Veterans Commemoration thing in Swanville went very well. Dwayne was a part of that, but it was, it was amazing. We had a huge turnout. It was very, very nice.
Mr. Chair, and I'd like to thank Kathy for all the work she did in that. Getting it with Todd County, and we had a lot people there.
Yes. There was
Everybody-
300 people that showed up. So,
Lots of good
thing that you think will be
comments.
30, 40 people suddenly boomed into, wow. I think the St. Cloud VA was quite amazed.
School was filled up.
It was.
Everybody was happy, so I heard a lot of good comments. So.
A lot of emotions, as a way to, basically it was thanking people for their service, and a lot of those people in that era were spit on and different things when they came back home. So for them to be thanked in such a nice way was really, truly amazing.
And the lady that did it from the VA is from our area.
Yeah.
She's from Todd County. She just lives 7
Yeah.
or 8 miles from Swanville. So.
Yeah. Hopefully she might be the next director at the VA in St.
Okay.
Cloud, Cheryl.
She's
so.
interim right now.
She is.
Okay.
Yep. And she's doing a wonderful job. So when
Yeah.
you see those people, you're like,
Yeah.
please, but
Yep.
who knows? And then for advertising, we've been doing radio stuff. We're doing our newsletter, so it's a huge project. We've got some people downstairs right now that are stuffing envelopes. But I've had a lot of positive feedback. So every veteran in the county gets one letter a year from us, and we try to pack a lot of information in there. And, because not everybody has email or computer systems where they can look up things that are going on. So it's one way for us to reach out to every single person.
So, Mr. Chair, Kathy, are you confident that you truly do touch every veteran in Morrison County? I mean, I gotta tell
The
you,
ones
if
that
you
have
wanna-
touched base with us, I mean, I
Okay.
can't say.
They've had to been here.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, doesn't matter what, and it's at that point that they now are being tracked, if you will, whatever.
Right, so I shouldn't say every single one, because there's people out there that I still don't know about.
But anyone that has
yeah.
come to you for whatever purpose?
Right,
Okay,
yep.
very good.
Yep, and we also send letters out to the widows, so if they've lost their veterans, so those people as well, because there are benefits that they can be entitled to as well. So they're not forgotten either. And so, but our numbers, they keep growing, as you'll see later, so there's way more out there than what we know about. And did a lot of things for Veterans Day. I didn't even plan on it, and then I ended up talking at a lot of different events and folding the flag, and that I was nervous. That was one time I was actually very nervous doing that because I can't fold a fitted sheet, so this was interesting for me, but I did it. And I had an elder, one of our veterans, he's like, "Can you do that at my funeral?" I'm like, "Really? I didn't think I'd." That's cool. I will do that. And some things that we have coming up. So we've got the veterans newsletters, and then we've got. We're going to have a meeting December 15th and meet with our veterans. I've gathered some information via surveys, but that only reaches out to people that have email and the people that actually fill out the survey. So I want to invite people to come in, talk to us, and see what kind of needs are out there. Some people have voiced they want to do things, they want to learn about nutrition, some want to learn about PTSD, some just want to talk to us about benefits and be able to ask questions. So December 15th, we'll give them that opportunity to not only talk about those things, but also ask us questions face to face. So we'll offer a meeting during the day and one in the evening. And then we'll figure out from January to April what kinds of things that we can, little extra events that we can do to make people's lives better during the months that are traditionally kind of boring for people, or that they kind of need that extra whatever it is. So we'll see how that goes. Maybe there's not a need out there. I don't know. But we'll find out. And then we just have a couple events coming up that I'll be part of. And then we'll go to some of the statistical information. And even though our deployments and things seem to have dwindled a bit, we seem to be growing in numbers, which is good, because that means when we're reaching out to people, they're getting the information and they're coming in and seeing us. And it seems like no matter what veterans organization I go to, someone might be part of a Legion and they still haven't talked to us. It's crazy. Just like, really, you're out there? And so it's good. And hopefully these numbers keep growing, but it also keeps us busier, I guess, as well. But that's okay. Good busy is a good thing. So that's where we are as far as numbers. And then we've got, just in the file, so with our tracking, just in a month, that's how many people we reach out, or that are reaching out to us via email, phone calls, face-to-face, one way or another. And so between the three of us, it's a lot of numbers. And for some reason, this file, I don't know why, but it just got busier. And that might die.
If I may interrupt, how many veterans do we have located here in Morrison County? Do you know right offhand?
So what we're tracking on our database is almost 4,000.
Okay.
But like I said,
No,
there's
no,
more
I
out there, and I don't know
I'm
what
just-
that
the reason
true
I asked the
number would be.
question, You have almost 4,000 in your database, but that would be just for Morrison County, or is that somebody from Todd, Stearns?
They come from all over
Right,
sometimes,
okay.
so, and so these numbers that contact us sometimes too, and, maybe they have a friend that works with us or something like that. There's various reasons. Sometimes too, because we have more females in our office, some of the areas that don't have a female in their office, some of the women will come and talk to me, and, but then sometimes we have people that don't want to talk to us, and they're going to go talk to another county. That's okay. I guess it's a nice way for us to work as a team and serve people.
Mr. Chair and Kathy, so the numbers of people that come to see you are either veterans, or would it be the wife of a veteran and he's deceased, and that wouldn't be included in your numbers,
Yeah.
or she's deceased? Yeah, okay.
And we'll have children. Sometimes when you have elderly veterans, they maybe have dementia or something, and they can't. So their kids will come to us, and then we have to sign a release. But we'll
Sure.
talk with them and work with them
And
to
that's all
get
included in your
benefits.
numbers, okay, very
Yep,
good.
yep. So it's anyone who talks to us. So.
Regarding a veteran, okay, thank you.
And some of those numbers too, probably just with the veterans event, the event with the Vietnam commemoration, we were, you're coordinating an event with a lot of people, so you have more people calling as well. Our female population of veterans, and that's nationwide, really, it's small compared to the number of females that are really that served in the military that come in and see us. So that's another reason I want to try to pull people in and try to get more of those women to come in and, meet me and talk and say, hey, you are a veteran and you should be seeking benefits too. I don't know what it is, it's just all over. It's a little tougher, and maybe they're still fighting that battle of women don't feel as important in the military. I don't know.
Mr.
It's
Chair,
something.
Kathy, is it today's, I want to be very careful that I'm not going to step on a toe here. Is it today's female veteran that may feel a little more uncomfortable coming to see you, or is it yesterday's?
It's both, actually.
Oh.
Really because just the other day, there's a World War II veteran, there was a woman that, it's all eras, but,
Okay.
so they're just taking all females. But
Okay.
I've seen it in all generations.
Thank you.
I don't understand it really, but, so we did some things, customer surveys, just to kind of, I want to know what people are thinking out there, and are we doing a good job or not, kind of thing. And so, overall, our customer rating and staff ratings were very good. And then I just put a page of just some comments that people said, and I thought that was nice to share. It makes you build your confidence, if anything, I guess, a little bit, that, okay, I am doing some good things. You have people that yell, as well, here and there, but usually if they're unhappy with us, they're unhappy with the world all the way around, is what I've found, so. And then overall, just kind of some of the areas of where we scored well and what I'm doing, and am I doing a good job? And so they probably think about most things communication-wise and friendliness. I guess that's my biggest thing, but that's not a surprise. I talk a lot, and I'm usually friendly and happy, so that makes sense. And then communications that's somewhere that people think we do very well in problem solving, and we do deal with a lot of times you get some really complex things, and it's being able to solve those things for people. So as we go through the ratings there, you guys, it's pretty self-explanatory. And then looking at what do our customers want, and I was just really surprised. Fitness and nutrition was like the highest thing, and I thought, really? But that's all right. Maybe they heard I used to teach that stuff, so they probably, I don't know. They want torture classes from Kathy or something, I don't know. But I've got some good connections that could work with some classes on that. And part of it is, even with mental health issues, if you're eating right and exercising, that's a huge part on how you feel all the way around with PTSD and stuff. Getting aggression out sometimes, if you can get them into some kind of regime of, for myself personally, if I exercise, I'm a happier person. If I don't, people probably don't want to be around me. So if I eat too much sugar, I get crabby, but it tastes good. So, it's amazing how that can make a difference. And we got a cute little story that I have to share because I'm thrilled to death, and this is going to make my holiday. And it's so I had a family out in the Hillman area when I was out at a Hillman holiday party that they have a farm with 2 places on it, 2 houses, and they were looking for someone to stay in the one, and they actually wanted to have this. They would let someone stay there for free if they needed help. And I'm like, well, you got to be careful with that, because there's a lot of people out there that, you wouldn't want to necessarily stay in your same yard, and they might be harmful and blah, blah, blah. Well, there was a female veteran that I've been working with, who is just in a horrible, horrible situation. Her husband was an abusive alcoholic, just up and left her with a lot of bills and a lot of horrible things. And the place that she's living in, old farmhouse by Randall, should be condemned. And so, going to be connecting these people, and they can work together, and she may have a warm home for her and her kids. And it was ironic. It's like, because I was just talking with these people and they're just sweet people, and I said, you know, it's weird how, you know, something will work out. And it was like, I came back to my office and last night I was like, my gosh, this is it. This is the answer. So, yeah. Not being religious, but there is certainly a God, because that is really, really cool.
It's been a great feeling to be able to do that, you know, for someone.
So I went home and I told my husband, this is the best thing, this is the best Christmas present ever. I get, you know, and I mean, and I, you know, it was just, everything fell in the right place, so,
Good. Great story.
yeah.
Any other more discussion?
Thank you for all your.
Thanks for the
Thank you.
information. I see
Thank
you're
you.
busy. Great job.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Kathy.
Thank you.
Have a good Christmas.
All right. Okay, planning and zoning, Amy.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Miss Amy.
I have a bunch of stuff
What do you
for
have for us this morning?
I have a treasure trove of things. Let's
All
see.
right.
So it looks like we have the resolution first. Okay, so the first one I'm going to put in front of you is to adopt the resolution amending the Morrison County Land Use Control Ordinance. We've had several conversations about this over the past couple of years, actually, looking at language. This did go to public hearing at the last Planning Commission. The Planning Commission did recommend approval of this.
For more discussion, I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to adopt the current ordinance put in front of us.
I'll second.
Ordinance complex. All right, I have a second for Commissioner Wilson. Any more discussion? Not, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Right, thank you.
Yeah, good job on
Yeah,
that.
Mr. Chair, a lot of work goes into
Oh,
ordinance
people didn't
revisions.
realize that.
and-
See, when did we
Yes.
start this?
Oh, gosh, we started talking about the subdivision ordinance a couple of years ago. So this was a big amendment because we completely replaced that section.
Great job,
Yep,
thanks,
and
Amy.
putting it all together, keeping on task, Amy's done an excellent job.
Amy and the
making sure
staff,
that's-
whoever helped you.
Thank you.
All right,
What do you have next?
I'm looking here, got a new tool
There's a lot
here.
of pages that you put in here, Miss
Yes,
Amy.
I know.
We gotta go through
I
them.
can't.
I just want to stay in order.
Aquatic
I need
invasive
practice
species, I
of-
think.
Oh, the aquatic invasives,
I think, that's
okay.
what mine shows.
Yes.
Getting
Okay,
dizzy.
so the next one I have is to approve the 2017 Aquatic Invasive Species Prevention Plan for submittal to the DNR. As you
gentlemen, for
know,
more discussion and
So
I need
moved.
approval of the
Second.
2017 aquatic invasive species. Any more discussion, Amy or the board?
just that we've had some discussion about this in planning sessions about adding a few other projects into our plan to open that up and to get that money out to local organizations that really want to have some feet on the ground for AIS. So I'm excited for 2017. I think we're going to do some good things.
Commissioner Jelinski,
Mr. Chair, Miss Amy, what kind of money are we looking at? Or
We rec-
expecting?
Yes, so we receive about $130,000 per year from the state. It comes in 2 installments.
Yep.
And we do have some rollover from the years past, so we do have a nice chunk of money. And so we're looking at doing some villager testing this year based on the AIS risk assessment that we had done. So that would be testing the high risk and moderate risk lakes for the smallest life stage of the zebra mussel.
Yep.
And then we're also looking at, through our grant program that we offer out, for some boat inspection programs, because we've had some lake associations express an interest in that. So
that is that.
so those are things that we've added into our plan that broaden some of the work that we'll be doing.
And with all of that, and you just said a grant program, so if I was to live on a lake and I wanted to have something done, what would I have to do to grab onto some of this money?
Well, what we're doing now is we're sending out the grant application packets to the lake associations that we are aware of
Yep.
and the lake improvement districts that we are aware of.
Yep.
And so those typically are the groups that will organize and put together something. I have been contacted by a couple of citizens that live on various lakes saying, hey, I'd like this program. or I'd like to see this happening on our lake. So I've referred them to their lake association, because that's where we get kind of those people that are really interested in, and are organized to be able to put together. So it's real, our grant program is really aimed at those groups.
Mr. Chair, and just a question for Amy, and you included Green Prairie, I'm sure?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, I
very
did
good,
get
'cause
some
they-
contact information, so they are going to be a part of that mailing, yes.
Very good, thank you.
Any more discussion, gentlemen?
Yes, I know when we did this the first time through, we didn't have public access for people to man public access, and then we had some requests. And part of that discussion was, let's see what the Lake Association wants, and let's see what we can do to help each one, because they're all different, and they all have different needs, and others get help from different things. So that's why you did some of these changes, because they did come and ask.
Correct.
And we looked at that in our planning session, and that's why we made some of these changes. So I appreciate the fact that they do come with suggestions,
Yes.
because the goal for this is to help their association and their lake on what they want to do. So,
The other, I've got some of my letters ready to go out, waiting on this approval. And one of the other things that has come up just in the past couple of days is the University of Minnesota Extension Office is rolling out a new education program for AIS. It's an AIS detector program. It's a pretty in-depth program where we can send some people that are really interested from the lake associations to really get educated on that. So we might have some kind of little local experts on the ground to help identify, early identification of some of these invasives is important. And so I'm going to offer that out as well, because education has really been the cornerstone of our AIS plan all along.
So, Mr. Chairman, Miss Amy,
Yes.
with the funding then that we're talking about here, whether it be grant funding to the LIDs, to the lake associations, or whether it simply be part of the pool of money that passes through, if you will, if we were gonna send somebody, and it's good with me, whomever, to wherever, could those funds be used then
Yes.
for travel expenses and so on and so
Yes,
forth?
anything related to aquatic invasive species, as far as getting people there,
Okay.
the actual education, so that would all
Good.
come out of that fund, yes.
And Mr. Chair, one other thing, the county board will then annually determine how much money is used out of that fund for
Correct.
each
I
association.
I present an AIS budget to you in the budgeting process. That AIS fund is one of those funds that you see. And so I do prepare a budget for that every year, so you do see that and formally approve that.
Yep.
Any more discussion, gentlemen? If not, I have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then the next item is to consider a couple of rezone requests. The first one is from Matthew Epsky. This was a request that came before the Planning Commission at the last meeting, and this was a proposal to rezone a little better than 15-acre piece of property from agriculture to manufacturing and industry. This was recommended for denial by the Planning Commission, so that's the first item I have for you.
Gentlemen, for more discussion, and again, this does not mean if you're for or against it, just for more discussion, I need a motion and a second.
So moved. Go ahead.
sorry.
Commissioner Wilson, we'll give him to Commissioner Wilson, and
Are you
Commissioner
moving-
Yep,
Jelinski is
that's
second.
what are we moving?
Okay, so
What
we're
is your
moving
motion?
on.
Are you moving to deny or to
That's
approve?
what-
We always, this is like I mentioned.
No,
This is.
but
No, no,
But you
no,
have
that
to
is the
move.
Oh,
motion.
this is the motion to approve or deny.
Yep.
Correct.
And you need to give a motion to do one of those things.
That's what it's,
I would guess I would rather have discussion first before, can we
Well,
discuss that first?
but
or
again,
not?
the way Robert's rule says, we need a motion and a second, and then we take a vote.
Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that we deny the request.
Okay? Any more, and I need a second on that one too.
second it.
All right, again, this is, for more discussion. Any discussion?
Well, Mr. Chair, there was a lot of concern regarding a rezone of this piece of property, not because of what the proposer is encouraging or what he wants to do, because I'm totally in support of business expanding and providing what they need. However, that being said, once or if he decides to sell this piece of property, it could be broken into parcels of 1.5 acres each, and at that point, there would be really different businesses that could come in there that would make this a real issue for the residents who reside around this piece of property, and that concerns me. I also believe that the way it was presented in the five-phase process that the requester proposed, that five-phase process, and I think there was some rationalization that, well, we would have to charge him 5 different fees to redo this. Well, in reality, if the requester would wanna do that himself, all in one phase, he wouldn't have to pay those 5 fees. So, you know, I'm very concerned about changing a designation on a property, and from my perspective, based on the properties around this would clearly be spot zoning. And our ordinance says we should not be doing spot zoning. So those would be my concerns and issues and why I cannot support this.
Any more discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Jelinski was out to let him read.
And Mr. Chair, first of all, I agree with that. As far as the operation that Mr. Epsky has, I don't think there's anybody that can deny. Pretty neat looking operation, clean. It's wonderful as far as I'm concerned by driving by, and anyone that drives by Highway 10 or from here to Royalton sees that. My heartache, if you will, and this is just how the cards are dealt, is if tomorrow Mr. Epsky was to sell this to whomever could change the entire dramatic look of what we see on Highway 10 for not only for anyone seeing it, but for anyone living next door to it. As far as an expansion to that business that is there, in my opinion, and the operation that I've seen, I couldn't vote to deny. I wouldn't vote to deny. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about a big package here that at the end result, at the end of the day, that property can be sold to whomever and whatever can be done to it. At least I hope that I'm on the right page. And I have to look at you, Miss Amy. I am, correct, or am I?
Yes, and
Okay,
then-
thank
and
you.
that was
That's
discussed
it
quite a
thoroughly,
bit,
yes.
yes, quite a bit at the planning commission.
And again, I am absolutely not against the cabinet shop, if you will, or the manufacturing operation that is there today, doing what they're doing. I'm not at all. Nor
Commissioner
expanding
Johnson.
it.
Okay, my question for Amy is, if we deny this, then what does he have to do?
So if the rezone gets denied, then the, Mr. Epsky does have the ability to still expand the business, but it would be under the requirements within the agriculture zoning district. So, wood manufacturing is an allowed use with an IUP, in the agriculture zoning district. So that means that any expansion of that, he would need to be coming in for the public hearing for an interim use permit. And then that's where we'd be working with Mr. Epsky on what that phase plan might look like, what the time frame on that, if we can frame that in a way where it can be brought for one hearing. And then he would really go through the process he just did for the rezone, as far as that would go for a public hearing in front of the planning commission. Planning commission would make a recommendation to the board, and then the board would grant or deny that interim use permit.
Okay, so if he comes with, like, there was 5 different phases, could that all be done at a
We
public
certainly
hearing?
can, depending on the time frame that he's looking at doing that,
Okay.
we certainly can do that, and
Okay.
depending on the comfort level that the board has on how many years out
On the
you want to
time.
be doing that. Because keep in mind, with an IUP, you also have to put a time
Right.
limit on that
Yeah.
permit, so you need to be, that all has to fall in place.
To follow up
Thank
on
you.
Commissioner Johnson's question, so if this applicant has a 5 phase time period, isn't there something that he has to complete it in 2 years? Or
He'd have to be acting on that permit, or on that interim use permit within 2 years. He needs to be doing something, which means pulling permits for construction and all that. So that's what we mean, he needs to initiate that, it can't, because if it sits and he doesn't act on that permit, then he'd be coming back if he doesn't start that within a 2-year period.
But it doesn't necessarily mean completed.
No, just pulling those permits, and then and then those permits are valid for 2 years.
2 years.
So if I, and that's part of my, a CUP and IUP. IUP is interim,
Interim use.
okay, permit. And if he would come, he had 5 phases out there, which was building on to a lien on the side, this and that, which doesn't seem like, it might be 5 phases, but it didn't seem like a great big project. If he would come and approve all 5 phases, for instance.
We approve. He would have.
Okay, well, if you get approved all 5 phases, within 2 years, he's got 3 of those done. Is that acting on that permit then where, okay, now it's gonna take me another 6 months or a year to finish this, so can I get an extension on that?
What we'd be looking at is what he lays out in the permit application. So if he lays out a time frame that would happen, and the first phase of that would be happening within the 2 years, and then he keeps on that schedule, I don't know that you'd want to have a 5-phase where 20 years from now, then I'm going to do this. And that's really what this is meant to avoid, because things change a lot sometimes in an ordinance. So I think if he's proposing a reasonable plan with a reasonable time frame for each of these, and the first phase of that is commenced within that first year or 2 of the IUP, then he could be working under that IUP for that phased project.
Because I'm very comfortable with that. I do get nervous, just like the other
Yep.
commissioners do, when we change the whole situation, that we don't know what can come in and all the things that are eligible to come in. So I think by doing what we're talking about here, I think that will help him out
Yep.
to achieve what he's looking for without creating a lot of
Yep.
things down the road.
Right.
So,
And from my point of view, I just want to, bring it up, is that approximately 5-6 years ago, there's a woodworking place that in the Bellevue Township was approved. And again, this does not mean, and by talking to Scott, he says just because we approve one doesn't mean you have to approve the other. But he's a woodworking in zoned agriculture, and it was approved as a manufacturing by the past board. The challenge I have, again, is, I agree with the spot zoning, but this is something that just doesn't come up with just manufacturing, where we have houses built in agriculture, because this is zone agriculture, and then it comes down to who's there first, the house or the landowner. So in this case, when the applicant built this woodworking process, there was already houses there. The challenge I have is that, again, it's a superb run area. You look at, to the east of them is Highway 10. To the west of them is Highway 10. To the east of them is his own property. You have to cross a public road, a township road, to the other houses. We have a residents there that none of them that were, in favor, or they just didn't put any information out. We had one applicant that was against it, or I should say 2, and then also to the south. Again, it's just, my challenge I have here is he does a great job. We promote agriculture. We promote businesses. And in this case, he may hire somebody, I know he can't guarantee that, but he's doing it for the safety of his employees. He's also doing it for, again, one of the one of the board members at the planning commission. It becomes so entangled with all the rules and regulations we have here that, so he would have to come back every 2 years, 3 years, spend the money, and I have a problem with the money factor. Again, I'm still on the fence. I don't even know where I'm going to vote here on this one. So those are things that I'm looking at. Is I was told last night by somebody, if you do it for someone else, you should do it for them. But I also explained to them about just because that fact. Commissioner Johnson.
Well, I think, am I right, Amy, on the fees? If we would deny this and he would come in and we could do it all, you know what I mean? Give him so long, but it's 2 years. Okay, and after 2 years, if there's a couple phases to go, we wouldn't have to charge him again. Am I right or am I wrong?
Depending on what he presents. So if
Okay.
everything that he is looking to do is presented in that interim use permit and you approve that, you really are saying, yes, we're okay with these 5 phases. He would need to get going on it. When we say acting on it, he's got to do something with it, pull the permits, do something with that within 2 years. And then that really says, yep, he's acted on that permit, he's implementing what he said he's going to. And then all of those 5 phases, he would just need to be pulling land use permits with us to do that, because we would say, oh, was this identified in your IUP? Yep, okay, then we go ahead and just do the straightforward permitting process if it was identified. We've had a couple of other businesses that have done that, and what comes to mind is Camp Lebanon. Camp Lebanon proposed a phased plan with a conditional use permit, and then as they've worked on those, then we go back to what was approved in that, and then we say, yes, this was approved, and then we go ahead and just do the permitting. So that's how that would work. The other part, though, is the interim use permit. The difference between an interim use permit and a conditional use permit is you must put a end date on that. That's different than if you act on it. The end date is, how long are you going to allow this use to continue on this particular property? How long are you going to grant that right? So you also would be addressing that in the IUP consideration.
Okay, another question. If we put an end date, that can always be amended then, am I right?
It absolutely can. It would be another public hearing, because you'd be looking to amend a condition on the IUP. However, IUPs, the end date can be, you have lots of different options on identifying that. It can be either a date, a time frame, or until a particular event happens. So you have a lot of flexibility in how you do that.
Mr. Chair, and very clear from my perspective and in doing the research on this is not about the business that is there, okay? It's really about what could go there if we rezone it. And like I said, I'm very supportive of local business, and you're doing what you need to do.
Absolutely.
It seems to me through this discussion, we have come up with a solution that doesn't require or need a rezone. Because if we did rezone it, us and future boards would be dealing with issues regarding possible new businesses if he were to sell it coming in and that becoming 10 separate businesses of 1.5 acres, and then you've got neighbors and so I think we can resolve this very easily, hearing from what Amy is explaining as far as an interim use permit. Then, that being the case, if indeed he has this manufacturing business, this woodworking business, and he wants to sell it, okay? I'm 60 now, and you look ahead to what you're gonna do when you wanna retire, I'm sure you're doing that as well. Well, at that point, the owner, a new owner or a new prospective buyer could come in and get an interim use permit as well to continue the business the way it is. So I see this as having solutions to all of these concerns and issues.
I guess.
Go ahead.
I guess that's what I was gonna say too. By voting against this, I think it's because it doesn't open up the door for certain things, but I think we've accomplished what I think he's trying to achieve. And I'm glad that we can sit down and try to do that. And there seems like there's always a way to do things if we can just work on them. And that's where I'm at. So.
Well, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure that we accomplished it. We put some stuff out there. Because the only thing that we're gonna accomplish here is either yes or no.
No, I understand.
That's the accomplishment. Well, that needs to be very clear. This is either a yes or no. A whole bunch of pretty cool ideas have been thrown out, as far as I'm concerned, as to what to do if this is voted down.
Well,
In
Mr.
my
Chair, one
opinion.
more quick thing. The neat part about the process, if we do deny this and the interim use process is that throughout those phases, not the phases, but throughout this business and future businesses in that location, there will be public input. And that's so important to the property owners around this, so.
And again, I appreciate all the information. Again, I'm still having, the thing is I look at, when it was brought up too at the planning commission that, banks are involved. If if you present phase 1, well, you know what, we kind of like to make sure maybe you won't get the second phase. I don't know. Those are just things out. So do banks really want the whole thing as far as permitted goes, or will they be willing to do that? Second thing is, if we do give an interim permit as of like a CUP, and I believe this is in his son's name, if the son decides to sell it to his son, does he have to come, that interim use permit that is null and void, correct me if I'm wrong, and then you'd have to start the whole process again?
The thing that is common between a conditional use permit and an interim use permit is you're still granting that right to the land. It runs with the land. Depending on how you write the IUP, on what type of condition would end that use, it could be when an Epsky no longer owns the property, when Matthew Epsky no longer owns the property, so those are things that the applicant needs to think about as far as what is a reasonable time frame, what is the future plan for this business, and we do work with the applicant on that as far as what makes the most sense here, and we will generally propose something to the planning commission for that, and because we've had some other uses that there's been concern about the ability to pass that business down to other generations, and so we have addressed that in that condition. So it really depends on how you write that condition. If
So
you're only
if I may,
comfortable.
Amy, if the Matthew Epsky owns it now, or it's in his name, and 20 years down the road, you know what, his son or daughter wants to take it over, do they have to start the whole process, or can we put that as a condition? Any relative that buys it, or if we.
So it wouldn't necessarily require that the use end and reapplication start, depending on how that condition is written.
There's flexibility.
Okay.
Yes, you do have flexibility, and that really needs to that conversation needs to be had with the applicant as far as what is the future plan for this, and how long do you anticipate this is going to be?
And then I think I'm almost done here. 2 more questions. One, on an IUP, you have to have an end date. Can that be 1 year? Can that be 100 years?
It doesn't have to be a date, it can be an action, it can be a time.
It can be until
a-
until the land use ordinance no longer allows that use in that zoning district. It can be until a particular person no longer owns the property. It can be until, for a period of years. It can be a date. It can be take the form of lots of different things. It's just that you have to identify when will it end. And that is the difference between a conditional use permit and an interim use permit. So it can be any one of those things.
And then I'll get to you. My last question is now, if we go back to this, if it is denied, and keep in mind, it has to be a supermajority, I believe, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Supermajority, 4 of the 5 have to approve it. If we go turn around and we go back to an IUP, and we put out there we try to get all 5 of his phases in that one permit, if that works out. And in 2 years, he pulls all because he's got 1 phase done, he still has 4 yet, he would technically have to pull them other 4 and start the process, hopefully. Would he then at that time still have to pay the additional amount? Or if he doesn't get one completed, now he's gotta come back and do the whole process again?
Generally, how we treat those is he would lay out a time frame within the IUP. And that first phase must start within 2 years. He has to act on that in the first 2 years. If he pulls the permits for that and he goes, and then he keeps on schedule with those others, as long as that's laid out in the IUP that way, he's not having to come back because it's been 2 years since the IUP was granted. So that's what we would work with the applicant.
So again, if he pulls he starts first phase.
Correct. He's
In
acted on his
1 year
IUP.
and 364 days, he pulls the second permit.
Yes.
And third, so then he doesn't have to come back.
Correct.
To do the phases. Commissioner Johnson.
Okay, on the interim permit, ending date, like for instance, it could be, let's just say, I'm just using numbers now. If he's 6 employees, if he gets to 20, that would be an ending date. Can it be something like that too?
You could certainly put
Okay,
a
okay.
particular threshold or condition that's met,
Okay.
Generally, you're gonna wanna have it be an event or
Oh.
or that that would almost be a separate condition.
Oh, okay.
You know, you're
Okay.
gonna cap
Okay,
them
I'm
out
just-
at the
yeah.
number of employees. That would really be a separate condition.
Okay.
Not when the use has to end.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, and then that would just be a standalone thing that you would, if you're concerned about the number of people in and out.
Okay.
Any more discussion, gentlemen?
I would like to say just one more thing. With Mr. Jelinski mentioning that we're voting strictly on here on denying this, I'm gonna vote to deny this. The difference is, if I didn't feel there was a solution to what he's trying to create, I would look at this differently, because I may vote for manufacturing, because it's kind of a unique situation. But I feel that I don't have to open up that door to achieve what needs to be achieved here. And that's why I'm gonna vote to deny that. So, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can I recap?
Yes, please.
An affirmative vote is a vote to deny. I just wanna,
Right.
sometimes that gets confusing.
Yes,
Okay,
it
good
is.
point.
That's the motion that was.
That is what the motion is.
Yep.
All right, I have a motion on the table to deny the rezone on the applicant opposed, and I also have a second. Any more discussion? If not, I would need a motion to.
No, the motion is.
I mean, not a motion, I would need to take a vote here. Those in favor of the motion on the table, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Motion carried as denied of the rezone on the table.
Okay, and then
All
the
right.
next item I have then is to consider the rezone request from Charles and Cindy Bry. This is a request to rezone two parcels of property from shoreline residential to shoreline commercial. This was also heard before the planning commission at the last meeting, and this was recommended for approval.
So moved.
I have a motion on the
Second.
table and a second. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chair, and very clearly, this board in the past, on two other occasions, with a resort on the same lake and with over on Shamina, have allowed inclusion of a neighboring connected property for commercial use. This is even more unique in the fact that their property lies right on old Highway 10, so it's got Highway 10 frontage. So I am very much in support of this. I do support the expansion of this type of business. The plan they proposed and shared with us at the Board of Adjustment is very unique in the kind of services they provide, and very clearly something that's needed within our community and within this county. So I very much support
Any
this.
more discussion?
Mr. Chair, I have to agree.
Okay, any more discussion?
Nope.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
All right, that is all I have for
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks, you
Yeah,
too.
we'll take a
Thank you, Amy.
5-minute break. What do you say?
Thank you, Amy.
Yep.
Coffee break.
Yes, Amy?
I'll vote. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Mauer.
Aye.
Myself, aye. Motion carried.
Well, thank you,
All
gentlemen.
right.
That was easy, huh?
That's it?
That was very
Good.
easy.
All right. Steve, Public Works.
Morning, Steve.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Steve.
Good morning,
members of the
Steve.
board. Nice day today.
Beautiful day.
Yes, the sun is shining.
Making ice, everybody wants ice.
It was
Yep.
shining anyway.
Oh, it was.
I just want the darn sun out there so I get some vitamin B.
Take tablets. You can take a tablet.
There are other ways.
Because with my great complexion, I need that.
A couple action items for your consideration today. As the board is well aware, the department has been working towards formalizing and updating, review our master plans for the Belle Prairie Park and the Sioux Line Trail, those specific facilities. Those have been designated as potential candidates for regional facilities that would make it eligible for legacy funding, as long as we have a master plan for each one that has gone through a process that the Greater Minnesota Park and Trails Commission has approved. And so as a part of that, our consultants have asked to have a small task force that will meet probably 2 or 3 times here in the next couple of months. They'll use them to bounce things off of because we're looking to try to get as much input, public input, but that public input will be through the internet, our website, where everyone can provide some input if they are interested in it, and not just those folks that are appointed to some committee. But this task force would be to bounce some things off, maybe the type of questions they may ask, or how they feel about things, the way they're developing in the direction the county, in their minds, would be going relative to parks and trails. These were people that had shown interest in the past that I'd put together and would propose for this task force if the board would so approve. And if you do approve, we'd also, for the couple meetings that we would have, that the non-commissioners would receive the per diems for the meetings also. So that's my request.
If I may, I thought we were gonna have me on there, cause you said you were too busy, but I'm fine with this.
No, I'll be on this is, there's
For
a
the
big deal
trails.
here with Belprairie Park in District 2.
Maybe it was you two that I wasn't quite sure which one was going to.
You can do it, Randy?
For the trails, so this is for the trails.
It's gonna be for both of them.
Oh, I mean, it's fine, so this will be
both.
for the trails in the
In
Belprairie
the
Park,
park,
I mean,
it's
that's
a
fine.
combined effort.
That's fine, I mean, I'm good with that, I just thought that
I'm
was,
good with
yeah.
If you
So
wanna
then you get
switch,
the
we could
trails
switch.
too,
or-
You
so,
want on there instead of me?
no, we're fine, we're fine.
Mr. Chair, and I was just gonna ask if I may, Steve, would it not, and maybe I'm not seeing someone on here, but would it not be appropriate to have someone from the Veterans Trail Committee on here? I mean, that's a big part of the trails issue within the county.
The reason kind of was,
I'm just curious, I'm just trying.
I was trying to stay away from folks that really kind of had an agenda, and their
Okay,
agenda
oh,
is
okay.
the development of that trail. It'll be, and maybe these folks could also be said to have that, but, you know,
That's what I was gonna ask.
they represent,
Different entities. I
the
understand.
whole groups of those type of things, and haven't really been focused on trying to develop a single trail.
Okay, no, and I understand, I just,
Question I have, it's open to the public anyway, so if somebody from the.
Yeah, it
if
will
they
be
wanna
open to the
show up-
public.
oh, no, I was just
And-
curious, okay.
And the compiling the input, anybody will be able to provide what they feel and how they think that the county should develop these two facilities in the long term.
Yep.
I think in terms of, you know, what we have available for resources and how we've set things up, I'm not thinking there's gonna be huge changes to the way we have things arranged currently. It's more formalizing it and putting it in a document that we can submit if there are some projects that we wanna proceed with.
Sounds good, thank you.
That's how I see it.
All right,
I would so move on that,
I would
Mr.
second
Chair.
I have a motion and a second, any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. And the next item is a request to enter into an agreement with Cushing Township for bridge replacement on Agate Trail. This structure has been on our radar screen for a number of years. It's a relatively low-volume roadway, but provides access for some residents and a number of parcels of property. There is no alternative. It's a dead-end roadway going back into these areas, and to have it where we have to close it would be very detrimental to a number of people and a number of properties.
I would so move that.
I have a
Mr. Chair.
motion and I need a second to the.
Second.
Authorizing the engineering service for the Cushing Township replacement bridge. I have a motion and a second, any more discussion?
I also had included the project list. I was just trying to give
Yep.
the county board a little idea on how we are being utilized by our townships and our cities more than in the past for engineering work, as I think more resources become available to them. The townships especially will have access to the town bridge account. Most of these projects are funded through the town bridge account. Those funds are routed through us. We don't have to do this work, but they're routed through us, even if they use consultants. But they like the turnkey, where they enter into an agreement that the board authorized with them, and that's really kind of the end of what they have to do. We take it from start to finish get them a finished product.
Mr. Chair, Steve, let me ask you this question just for the sake of argument. Obviously, we're talking about a township road, a township bridge in essence. We're not talking about some great big gigantic bridge, or are we? What are we? What really kind
This
of thing
is
are we
a,
talking
is
about?
I would say it's gotta be a 50-foot slab span currently.
Okay.
But I would expect that the replacement structure will be several large box culverts. We've utilized those as much as possible in our replacement programs. And typically what works is that the economics of 3 lines of large box culvert is where the break is between when you go to an actual, what we would think of as a bridge.
Okay, very good. Thank
And
you.
Mr. Chair,
Thank
those
you.
are concrete, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you very
I
much.
have a question here. Steve, these bridge replacements and stuff that you have here on this list, these would all take engineering work, right? Of
Definitely.
some sort. And when we were talking earlier about salaries with engineering, stuff like that, if we didn't have somebody on staff that could help do some of this engineering, each one of these projects would go out to an engineer firm or whatever, and the cost would be greatly more to us, correct?
That is
Right.
yeah, that is an alternative, and we have during my career, had a couple that have decided they wanted to go to consultants.
Okay.
Substantially higher expenses in doing the work, and I would say in the last 10 years, the townships know that, they meet together and they know what the costs of that are. They've all entered into agreements with us to do that work because I think it's seamless for them, and the cost overall is probably as low as they'll get.
And so not only the county saving dollars when it comes to our projects, but these townships saving dollars when it
Right.
comes to theirs.
That's what I-
So-
That's why they're
I was
coming
trying to
to us.
relate this back
Yes.
to our discussion that we had by a hard time finding engineers with what we pay,
Yeah.
and what does it cost if we don't have them? That's how I was trying to relate
Yeah.
this.
So, Mr. Chair, Steve, I just have to ask, why would an agency have went out instead of going through the county in the past? 10 years ago, 20 years ago? Just because, or you don't know?
Well, the one I remember, there was some friction between the town board and the county engineer.
Probably answered
And
it
it was
right
before, it was before my time.
Good enough.
It wasn't the county
You
engineer.
answered
I knew you'd say that.
You answered it, thank you, good
All
enough.
right, any more discussion, gentlemen? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you very much.
You bet.
Thank
Be
you,
careful to
Steve.
not say aye in inappropriate places, right, Steve?
Administrators
Have a
report.
good
All
day,
right,
Steve.
Mr. Chair, I have a few items for your consideration. First, I have a contract for legal services between Scott Wunderlich and Morrison County. Scott provides a couple of things to the county. He's a public defender, and so we have a couple of different contracts that relate to specific components, and every other year one is due. And this one is due, it's regarding the, services for juvenile right adversaries, civil commitments, paternity cases, child support, contempt hearings, guardianship, and conservatorship.
I need a motion for
so
second for
moved.
more
I
discussion.
second
I
that.
have a motion from Commissioner Johnson, second Commissioner Mauer. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion
All
carried.
right, thank you. Scott does a good job. We have a good
Yes, he
relationship.
does.
Does a very good
Yeah.
job.
The next one is, other than on my to-do list, try to figure out how to find my little quick
You're doing
buttons when I
okay.
do
You're
this.
doing
My
okay.
new device here is, you know, kind of the theme of the day here in some regards is about, staff
Deviation.
and about how we, are moving forward, and what we knew was coming is now kind of playing out to be the case in some positions regarding the difficulty to fill. We do have the assessment coordinator position open. It's the assessor essentially for the county. The change you have supported to a land services division to help with customer service, to move all that forward, is happening, but we still need somebody to fill that role. And we were lucky enough to have an applicant to come forward to fill that role. And I think based on discussion we've had previously, we're comfortable with that plan moving forward. But in negotiation with that individual, And with this position, we're looking to have some flexibility on starting pay.
Gentlemen, I need a motion and a second to allow the county administrator to deviate from the compensation classified plan for the assessment coordinator position, starting pay up to step 9.
So moved.
I have a motion, I need a second for more discussion.
Second.
I have a second. Any more discussion? If not, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried.
All right, we will work to move that forward. I do have a tentative agreement that I would like to have you consider for action. However, I'm going to close the meeting first so I can talk to you about what that includes prior to the vote on that. And so,
How about we do committee reports
committee
first?
reports would be great. That way we can end with those. 2
Commissioner
months after
Wilson,
the
let's
vote.
start with you.
Sounds good.
What are the dates?
Dates are December 11th through the 24th.
Okay, on December 13, we have a planning session at 8:30. 7 o'clock that evening, we got a facility informational meeting. And at 11:30 that day, we have a holiday greeting.
Gathering.
Gathering, I'm sorry.
You can greet,
Greeting.
too.
Yeah, I'll greet them there, yes.
Don't be playing footsie.
Okay, Wednesday, we have Public Works public hearing at 7 o'clock. On Thursday, the 15th, I've got TCC at 5 o'clock and a PAC meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning.
What's PAC?
Coalition.
Pierce Coalition.
Okay, there we go.
On the 20th, we have a board meeting at 9 o'clock. We have a public hearing at 9 o'clock. And I have community development at 12:15, Dwayne and I do.
Yeah.
And on the 21st, we have a planning and zoning viewing.
Anything else? Commissioner Johnson?
Okay, on the 12th, I'm gonna be in St. Paul with South Country and the hospital in Morrison County for the commissioners, I forget what it was, an excellence award for Morrison County. And I told Tabitha she can get the rest of the information from Brad. And we got planning on the 13th. And a public hearing that evening, that's on the trail, right? On the 13th. Oh, no.
No.
Nope, that's on
The
the,
14th.
no, that's on the facilities.
Yes.
Okay, and 14th is trails.
Yeah.
On the 15th, on Thursday, I have Region 5 meeting at 5 o'clock at Camp Ripley. Commissioner Mauer and I don't think he can make it, on the 16th, have a RDFA meeting at 12 noon at Community Development. We have Board and Community Development. And I have a Camp Ripley Citizens Committee meeting at, I think it's 10 o'clock on Tuesday. I'll be there later. We got board that day in Community Development. And that is all I have.
All right, Commissioner Jelinski?
Besides everything else that has been talked about, on the 12th at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll be at Live Better, Live Longer at the Crestliner Complex. I was asked to come there to speak. About what, I'm not exactly sure yet.
I'm sure you'll find something.
I will find something. On the 15th, I've got an Armor Owners and Operators meeting in Alexandria at 10 o'clock in the morning. And that evening at 7:30, I've got an Egg Society meeting. For everyone's information, on the 17th, Sprout again will be open at the Crestliner Complex at 10 o'clock in the morning. On the 19th, at 5 o'clock, I've got a Stand Up For You meeting at the middle school. On the 21st, I will not be attending Planning and Zoning, the viewing up at the lake. I will, at 11 o'clock, I've got an Armor Executive Committee meeting in St. Cloud, and at 1 o'clock, the Emergency Services Board will meet in St. Cloud. And at 5 o'clock, I'll have a Hands of Hope meeting, and I'm 99% positive that's in Todd County. On the 22nd at 12:30 in the afternoon, should be my last State Emergency Communications Board meeting dealing with armor in Arden Hills.
Commissioner Mauer?
All right, everything else that was said, and I have a airport commission meeting at 12 o'clock on Thursday the 15th, Headwaters Board meeting at 9 o'clock on Friday the 16th. Will not be able to attend the RDFA that Dwayne mentioned because of that meeting. Stand up for you on the 19th, let's see here. And I'll be going to the viewing at the resort out on Fish Trap, which we just opposed the change of designation to, so.
Thank you. On the 20th, you have me down for the Great River Regional Library, that is canceled. But on the 22nd, I have the Soil and Water at 9 o'clock, otherwise I'm good to go. That's WCD. Anything else?
I would,
Pass them down for me.
Please pass them down, if you got them filled in, you're just like teachers here, pass your
Are you
papers
looking-
down for corrections.
Are
All
you
right, now I'm
looking for a
looking to
motion?
motion to close for the executive session.
so moved.
I have a motion? Wait a
Second?
second, I got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? It is now 10:41 to close for our executive session, labor negotiating strategy.